Well, good afternoon, everyone. We do trust that you are well, and thank you for joining Murray and I for our coffee session this morning. I do have my coffee here with me, and if you don't have yours, thanks, Murray. Just push pause and go get yourself a cup of coffee, and let's continue. Today, our discussion is around performance management. We've had discussions with you on our operating model from a people management perspective for the framework which we put there. We've addressed the planning and sourcing and selection, also looked at role profiles. And today we're really focusing on performance management. And what is important of performance management is really it's focusing on the outcomes. And it's not about being present, but it's been what can I deliver. So Murray, will you take it away for us?
Thank you, Dennis. Now, I think the interesting thing and a question that we often get from people is what's changing in performance management, and from the research that we've done, continuously do, and changing practices that we've observed by working with clients and so on, the following is starting to emerge. The as is can be seen as a once-off event. That sort of describes the whole process. We're going to discuss the detail just now. And then the to be, as performance management is changing, is an ongoing process. And that's important. So let's quickly look at some of the detail on this. In the as is, you normally have poorly prepared managers, whereas in the to be, you will have well-prepared managers, preparing for performance feedback and all the other stuff. Poor performance contracts, in other words, a low quality, whereas in the to be case, they will be measurable and agreed performance contracts, quality performance contracts. Mainly, the as is a mainly subjective, gut feeling sort of an approach, whereas the to be is an objective, measurable and measured approach that you follow. Then poor or no communication, and this is a vital thing. Dennis and I often pick up in companies that managers even have, with providing positive feedback, struggle to do that in a proper way. And I'm not even focusing on the sort of what we refer to as the reinforcing feedback. Now, there are very specific methods that you can use to make people much, much more efficient in this. And this is vital to have the right way of providing feedback. So communication throughout the process is also very important. Now, the next point is an event once or twice per annum. This is where the once-off event as is sort of a name comes from. And this is now changing to ongoing dialogue, feedback, and adjustment to performance if need to, because sometimes you find something in the environment changes and you need to adjust the performance contract. So the next point is focus on assessments and ratings. In other words, compliance. That's the main focus. As long as I get something done on a piece of paper, whether quality is good, it doesn't matter. I will be sort of gauged on whether I've done all my performance ratings. The focus on the to be side in the future will be on coaching and the development of the individual, much more than the rating. And obviously also when managers are well prepared, they've agreed stuff, and they measure it on a regular basis and providing feedback, the rating is not also a surprise to the person that's rated. Then there's little or no management support. You often find people griping about performance management. It's a hassle that we have to do it. Whereas the to be is you will have it actively supported by management and leadership sort of a process. And if that's not the case, you're going to have problems. Right. Then the next point, absence of consistency checks. And with a new approach, there's regular consistent checks at least twice per annum to make sure that you're fair in rating the employees. So this cuts out the chances of one or two managers being very lenient or others being too strict. So you want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with the process, and that's why you have the consistency checks. And we will also mention that when we look at the tools in the end. All right, so the once-off event often results in conflict, stress, a defensive attitude, and mistrust. I've seen so many times where the individual before the performance rating, they are very stressed, and so is the manager, I suppose. But coming into the performance management session, the person that's being sort of rated or assessed becomes very defensive, because you constantly need to sort of defend your position. Whereas on the other side, in the 2B, the focus is really on building trust and employee engagement. In other words, you want people to sort of engage in discretionary effort, and ultimately that leads to a higher performance individual and for the organization. So this is basically, and one can quickly go through the list again if you just want to check where your own performance management currently is.
Yeah.
Right.
And Maria, just in terms of the trust, engagement, and the performance, the loop at the bottom here, and this is more and more important now where people are working from home and away, out of sight from managers. So that's why this ongoing process becomes a very, very critical component or method of performance management. But let's look at the accelerating performance slide that we've got. We've got two axes here, Murray.
Yeah. First of all, obviously we want to improve performance, and that must be on a continuous sort of a basis. But to be able to improve performance, there are 6 performance acceleration steps that we're going to quickly discuss. The first step is to understand performance. Now, the important thing here is to make sure that you properly orientate the new incumbent in the role, whether that's a person that you've appointed from the outside, which is even more important, or an internal promotion. You need to make sure that the person understands exactly what is required of that specific role. And to do that, you need to have a quality role profile, the one that we've discussed in the previous session. You want the person to understand where he or she fits into the department where they work, or the division, or the company as a whole. So that's why the strategy and business plan alignment is an important thing here. So once the person understands what the performance is all about, the next step come in. And the next step is to make sure that you've got a contracted performance management contract. So to have that, you need to have key performance areas, KPIs, and KPIs, key performance indicators, and targets. And the KPI and targets is equivalent to an objective. It must be measurable. And this is how you actually translate the organization, the division, or the department strategy to an individual level. And then the last thing in step 2 is to agree or the performance contract with the employee. Then we can move on to the third step. And this is a very important one. Often this is sort of neglected, but it's measuring performance, and that's an ongoing evaluation. You don't do it once or twice per annum, but whenever you see performance or you discuss a performance on a daily or a weekly basis, you provide feedback, you provide coaching, all the other stuff. You focus on accountability, and then also when you see something is done well or something is not done as it should have been, immediate feedback, what we refer to as the reinforcing and developmental feedback. Step 4 is an interesting one. I think this is one that most people sort of leave out. Even if they do the others instinctively, this one is left out. And this is to understand what the performance is all about. So we call it analyzing performance, understand why performance is good and bad, and use it to improve performance. So in other words, if something is not done as well as it could have been, make sure that other people don't do the same mistakes. And similarly, if somebody does something exceptionally well, learn from that and generalize that to the rest of the people. So that's analyzing performance. Now we know why it's not good or bad.
Yeah.
So the fifth step is then to optimize performance. So you close the gap by providing tools and development coaching, whatever the case or what is needed. And in the end, when the gaps are closed and you've done all 5 of those steps exceptionally well, we get to what we refer to as a performance culture. Now this is an important point. So once you've achieved this, things might happen around us, like with COVID-19, but people will continue performing irrespective. Often companies make a mistake by first introducing monetary rewards, and as soon as something goes wrong and there's no monetary reward, the performance also fall by the wayside. So the 6th step is an important one, but it should only be introduced once you've got a performance culture, and that's to reinforce performance with rewards. When a performance culture is established, monthly rewards, for argument's sake, incentive scheme can be successfully introduced. And remember, something like the incentive scheme is actually nothing different to a good, solid performance contract. The only difference is you've got monetary rewards linked to certain achievements. So this is the 6 performance acceleration steps. And really, if you understand this well and do it well, and remember what we've said, the differences between the as is and the to be, you're going to really have a quality performance process in your organization, and you're going to reap the benefits.
So Murray,
I think, yeah.
The fundamental here is, all these steps, it really leads us to what needs to be done. That's communication, engagement between the employee and the manager or the leader. That's fundamental.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And it will build up a relationship, and we want to have trusting relationships, and we want to have an environment in which people can and want to perform.
Yes, Murray, that then just takes us lastly to the tools. So there's a whole various amount of tools that we can use within performance management, of which we're not going to go into detail today. But first of all, we need to have our objectives, and we put them in a SMART performance objectives methodology, which is very important. There must also be quality performance contracts. So when looking at the performance contract, the incumbent and the manager must know exactly what's the expected outcome, what needs to be done, who is accountable for what in that process. And then, of course, there's also the rating decision. It's how do you go through this rating scale or the process to do the ratings. Then we would start looking at the rating scale specifically and the reward allocations of the rating scales. And this is always an interesting one, Murray, because in many of these scales, there's like a midpoint which everybody kind of falls towards. And they don't want to make a decision on a 4-point scale, but a 5-point scale is easy because we all go for the number 3 in the middle. So that's an interesting one to look at. And then, of course, this performance management cycle. What is the phases of performance management? We need to understand that cycle. And then just another tool which is there, which Murray referred to, we're looking at the calibration sessions where leaders from different divisions or areas really get together and they kind of discuss the performance of the people, and they start sharing their experiences and the outcomes of performance so they can start calibrating or aligning to performance between specific individuals, and it takes out a lot of subjectivity. Murray, anything else on these tools from your side?
Dennis, I just think these tools were developed over time. I think it's tools that one can use with great success in companies as well. So if somebody wants to go into more detail in one or more of these, they're more than welcome to contact us. But yes, we've just found that this works exceptionally well.
Well, thank you for that, Murray. And then we'd just like to thank you once again for spending some time with us this afternoon. And we're looking forward to having a next discussion with you. And keep well and keep safe. And thank you, Murray.
Bye. Bye.